Just going to talk about JonBenet Ramsey and her murder and the ransom note and what both John and Patsy wanted to happen after her murder and what was important to both of them. And I've said in the past, look, it seems to me John could have written this ransom note. It's just casting shade everywhere. He's at least dictated some of it. I understand fully about Patsy, her phraseology and the rhythms of the letter and that sort of thing. And I thought, no, look, there's just something screwy here. John's got a hand in this. He wants JonBenet's body not to be discovered. So there has to be a ransom note. Has he just told Patsy to write it? And then I thought, but why is it making Patsy's sound on the surface anyway? Before I watched something last night, on the surface seemed just so guilty. It's crazy because, it's kind of like in all the attempts to push the idea of guilt away from the Ramsey family, it's John that comes up a little cleaner, isn't it? So after, what was going to happen after, the police come, they report that their daughter is not here, she's kidnapped, and her body isn't to be found in the home. Say, what is really the expectation then of what can happen? Well, Patsy will know now that this means there is no funeral, no ritual, no beautiful funeral photos where this macabre, high fashion styling, this glorification, this canonization of this little girl seems to take place in this highly stylized photo. It is a beautiful photo. It's very dark to look at and consider. If you haven't seen it, have a look. And Patsy wouldn't get this ceremony and this ritual with the priest where, the right prayers, the right things are said, the right burial takes place. And, we know that Patsy has gotten the fear of the Lord in her since her first illness. She has gotten this fear of death, which has driven her to this deep faith, religiosity, and this connection with this church, and with having this open relationship with God. And she's got her big pictorial cross that she wears, and she often is, she's talking about the afterlife. She was really deeply concerned with, life after death, with what happens at death. And she wants to do everything that she can to try and secure a place, if indeed there is life after death for Patsy. She wants to make sure she's connected, right? And she would want the same for JonBenet, and she wants to see JonBenet again. And I think Patsy's been living for years by this time in a construct of her own imagination. She's got, no matter what she thinks she's putting out to people and showing people about just faith and doing these pageants and everything, I think she's living her life on her own terms. Her internal dialogue is, it's getting what she wants. She's satisfying the things that she wants out of life through her daughter, and by having what she thinks of as maybe these safety nets and everything, you know, with you know, pastor role and everything. Okay, so, and I've sort of alluded to what was important to Patsy with JonBenet's death. It is this, well, you know, she's left this beautiful corpse, right? And it wouldn't do for Patsy to, say, have JonBenet found later after a few days, not to be able to present her to humanity and to God as this divine little creature. And this would have overridden everything to Patsy, I think. To the point where she would have said, okay, no, I'm going to have faith in my ability to not get caught, even though now the police will have JonBenet's body. So, you know, I've thought, okay, look, the ransom note, this is so batshit crazy, but, you know, John has somehow authored this or directed this, whether or not it's Patsy's hand, or I've thought, you know, he's known enough to write out some of that note and to put certain flourishes in, and to take his time trying to form these letters or something, you know. I know it's got Patsy's phraseology. I know it's got, you know, these tells in there that, you know, it's Patsy's style, and these ridiculous words, but, you know, husband and wife, you know, they can, you can set each other up, sort of thing, with attaché and the like. But I saw this video by Marcel Elfers, and I'll put a link in the description, and he says, okay, what the ransom note now is saying is this is Patsy's warning to John. She's giving him his ultimatum. She's making him decide something, or she's going to out him. And so listen carefully, your situation, and it's up to you now, John. This is what he highlights as being, this is what the note's all about. So I kind of think, okay, what happened? Were these pages that are missing? They were written out by one or the other, or two together, you know, and it said something else, and it was just a more reasonable ransom note. But has then Patsy stayed up and written this note, the final note, to give this message to John? Don't you dare take JonBenet away, because she is going to have her funeral. She's going to look beautiful. We are going to have the ritual of the funeral. She's going to be able to pass over into heaven, and I'm going to see her. So, you know, I just find this really interesting. Not that I couldn't see that Patsy, okay, you know, she's helping in a cover-up and she's going to, you know, write this batshit note. I mean, the note is batshit. But, you know, John is just so calculating. I mean, Patsy's not dull either, you know, she's sharp. But, you know, John is so manipulative and calculating, and yeah. But, you know, I found this really interesting. You know, that it goes into a lot in other videos. It goes into, you know, his handwriting analysis and stuff, which I'm not sure. The reason why I don't get into it is because I don't think it should hold up in any sort of court, because I think when things have too many variables and there's too much leeway for big mistakes and for, you know, getting it wrong in some serious situations, I think other things have to be done. So, you know, that's why polygraph testing, you know, I don't think that should be used in court, as it's not. just because there's just too many variables and there's too much room for doubt. So, sorry, this is a really messy video. But yeah, I just wanted to have you think about this. Because, you know, what would have happened had John been successful in getting JonBenet Ramsey out of the home on 15th Avenue? Where would she then go? Would she have flown with them to Charlevoix in Michigan? That house has a similar awful vibe as well. It's got the similar features on the front of it. This face, have a look. Oh, and the turret, and it can look very whimsical and pretty, say in certain photos, or when Patsy Ramsey has painted it. She's a talented artist, really, for an amateur. You know, she's quite good at expressing light and yeah, in her paintings. I thought she's quite, you know, she could have developed quite well as a painter. But when you look at photographs of it and you compare that to the 15th Avenue home, they have these similar faces and they're not inviting. It's dark. So what would have happened? I mean, would JonBenet have been secretly buried somewhere? Would she have had to have been disposed of in some sick manner? You know, and with these superstitions that Patsy Ramsey had, I think, you know, whatever Patsy Ramsey was putting forward to the world, it's not really her true state of mind and belief. I think she has some, I think she possibly, I wouldn't know, but I feel like there's her own little form of psychosis and dissociation and just this whole internal world that we don't know about going on there. She was satisfying things that she needed in life to fulfill her own beliefs and her own needs, you know, no matter how they were expressed and looking like something else. And this is the religiosity, this is the pageantry with JonBenet. That's the whole styling of JonBenet as a little her, you know. She often wore costumes that looked like Patsy when she was 19. You could get very dark and think, I've asked you this before, what do you think about it being premeditated, you know, being a sacrifice sort of? Patsy Ramsey had already bought JonBenet's funeral dress, this incredible gown. There was no way Patsy Ramsey wanted the world to miss out on this photo, on her to miss out on having this photo, on JonBenet to miss out on being presented in the way she was. This is so important to Patsy that she would have brought the house of cards toppling down on John Ramsey, on Burke, on herself. This was the threat. This is the threat that Marcel Elfers is pointing out in the letter. The, you know, Mr. Ramsey, John, you know, listen carefully, your situation, and yeah, she's saying you can't, you know, you've got to decide, are you going to take JonBenet away? And if you are you up for the consequences? So, you know, he's then had to make a decision and find JonBenet. He hadn't gotten her out of the house. Perhaps he didn't count on Patsy getting her friends over and the priest, the pastor. There's so many different versions put out, you know. Did Patsy ring the whites or did John? what phone calls did he make on his cell phone? But, you know, did he just get his friends there because she had hers? Was it because they were all there? You know, was Patsy protecting herself by having her friends around her so that she wasn't alone with John and being confronted by him about her ultimatum? You know, she just wanted JonBenet found and then, you know, this funeral to take place, this ceremony, so that she could go to heaven, so that, you know, Patsy would see JonBenet again, because, you know, Patsy Ramsey's been entirely freaked out by the thought of death. She needs to believe in an afterlife, and she has her own ideas on how you get there. And it's her own version, it's her own recipe. And, you know, so it's a recipe that doesn't involve, you know, anything to do with accessory to murder after the fact, you know, an accomplice, covering for someone, all of this shit, you know, that, you know, if you're following some commandments and things like that, I mean, would you enter heaven through the main gate? Would you have to go through the eye of the needle like the camel? I mean, you know, Patsy Ramsey is warped. I think she was warped for quite a number of years. And, yeah, so I just found it extremely interesting to think about, okay, you know, Marcel Elfers is saying, you know, that perhaps there wasn't a note. John Ramsey didn't know maybe that there was going to be a note, and Patsy's just written this off her bat so that she can send a very loud message to John. But I feel like, I don't know if I'm ready to do a flip over to, well, John had nothing to do with the ransom note. I think there may have been another version of this note, and Patsy's taken this and built upon it and built into it what she wants to happen, which is that JonBenet is not going anywhere, just to be buried out in the woods somewhere where they can't have a headstone, where they can't openly grieve and know what's happened to her, you know, but live a different type of fast for the rest of their lives. Patsy needs this Christian, this ceremony. She needs the funeral. She needs the sermon. She needs the rites. You know how there's the last rites? Well, JonBenet wouldn't be able to receive the last rites. She wouldn't be able to receive the funeral and that ceremony and the burial and all the prayers and everything that happen at a funeral. Didn't Patsy look happy? Didn't they look happy? Patsy, you know, not looking at John or Burke and their expressions, but Patsy did. She got what she wanted and needed, what she needed above all else. And, you know, did I say this already in the video? Have you seen JonBenet's funeral picture, what I'll call the funeral picture? So, you know, in this gown that had been bought, I think maybe in Georgia, from another pageant lady. It was this haute couture kind of a gown from another pageant performer, I think, and it would have been bought at great expense. And the roses, the hair, the flowers. I mean, you know, Nick Cave would have used this imagery in his music videos. You know, it's that type of thing. There's this idolation. There's this canonization of JonBenet. There's this this image of beautifulness and of perfection and of she's made very desirable, very it's macabre. I don't even have the words to say it. Now, was this dress bought for a pageant, or, you know, is this some sort of sick you know, premeditated murder. You know, who knows? So, some people like to say that, don't they, that John Ramsey is a, you know, and this is a sacrifice. You know, Christmas is a very important time for these cultists. You know, this is why this video could be hours long, just discussing all these things. But this is why, you know, I don't want to take this any further either. It's funny, you know, because I've had this in my mind about her beautiful corpse and how important this is to Patsy. You know, live fast, die young, and, you know, and there's a whole lot of other dark stuff that comes with that. But Marcel Elfers has sort of put into my mind about the importance to Patsy of this ritual, of this passing over, of getting JonBenet into heaven and of seeing her again. And, you know, would this happen if her body is just taken away? They have to put her somewhere privately where only they know. We don't have these blessings, these rituals, the last rites. And is then, you know, Patsy in her insanity, because I think there's a lot of insanity in Patsy, you know, she wouldn't be able to live with this and process this. This just wouldn't do. And this was the threat she held over John. It meant so much to her. It was so impossible over her to think of doing that she threatened John. She was going to bring everything down on top of their heads. But the alternative was that the payoff for John was that she would support him thick and thin, and didn't she? And he even said at one point she was a wonderful wife. She was, we walked through this together, you know, she was by my side. And she did. She kept her end of the bargain. Although you can see in later years, and when she was sick again, she's disgusted by him. She can't bear to be in his presence. There's that video, the Connect Church interview. Take a look at that. I mean, she's obviously very ill, bloated with sickness and maybe medication. She's got this wig on, I believe. And John looks very sick and grey and wan, and, you know, and that sort of, he's got that washed out, crusty, unkempt look. And I don't know whether they've, you know, because they're on harder times, you know, they've got their old-fashioned clothes. That their clothes are old-fashioned now because, you know, they're obviously of a slightly different era. They're from the 90s. Her pointed satin shoes, and her still with this aqua suit. And, you know, John's looking shabby, and he's kind of nearly in slippers, and he's got that just dusty old man look, you know, quite different to how he pulled himself together with his sharp suits and looking much more ruddy and successful again, isn't it, after Patsy's death. So just take a look at that, because you can see she's, you know, she's probably wanting to focus on her own journey into death and her afterlife, and, you know, she's had enough of John Ramsey. I think that's pretty clear. And, you know, this is very important to her, you know, all these trappings, the rituals, the belief. And you can tell this is so warped because everything is of her own device. It's not true Christianity or true religiosity or following any sort of, you know, commandments or, you know, anything, because it's whatever in her own mind is going to get her through. And she does the things that in her own mind make her safe, and you know, because how can you be covering up the murder of your daughter and continue this huge farce and lie and just be such a sick person in that regard? I mean, it is really it's really twisted, and be thinking, yeah, I'm a good person, you know, I'm going there when I die. I'm heading to the right place in this afterlife that I'm choosing to believe in. And, you know, she's just believing all her own bullshit, all her own spin. I think she's completely psychotic and had been for years before JonBenet's murder, living in her, you know, she's the type that just constructs her own world and did it. No matter what she was presenting for people, saying she's doing something for one reason. It's whatever Patsy had in her own secretive mind. She only knows the answers to a lot of the things that went on. I do think she was a damaged woman. She went through the pageant circuit herself, you see, and was a young lady that, yeah, had probably some similar experiences to JonBenet, and maybe had sort of a detachment to what other people really felt. Sorry, this is a terrible video. I don't have time to re-record it. So, you know, just thinking about JonBenet, was she supposed to be found in the home? Probably not. I mean, so, you know, you've got to stop thinking that garroting and everything is part of staging, that parents are going to choose to do that to show to their daughter. I mean, it's unnecessary, and especially if she was never supposed to be found in that home. And, you know, so thinking about her not going to be found in the home, so what was going to happen to her little body? Would she be found later when she was no longer beautiful or could be made beautiful? Or, you know, and was that unbearable, just the thought of her not being somewhere or in consecrated ground to Patsy? You know, yeah, so dark. What do you think? So go and have a look at some videos of Marcel Elfers. He's got other things on there too, but there's a few things about JonBenet. He's actually got some links to a channel that I used to watch and who I changed the course of her history about 18 months ago, or over a year ago anyway. But she's not posting anymore. She got wilder and wilder and started, you know, channeling JonBenet and started saying some very out there things. Who knows? Anything's possible. But her name, it's Linda Loves Music 1 or Linda Loves Music 11. I can't remember. She's got a lot of Michael Jackson stuff on there. She was very pro Patsy Dunnett. And I started commenting on her videos saying, I think it's John, and here's a few reasons why. And she took them and ran with them and then blocked me and hid me from her channel. And she did a lot of editing in her comment section, let's just say. But she's quite wildly popular, and she really went after John Ramsey after being crusader after Patsy Ramsey for a long time, and crucifying Patsy Ramsey. And it made us see things differently, and it seems I might have done this to people here on my channel. And this is the interesting thing about life, is things always change. You're always learning new things, and you should always be open to changing your stance, just like I am, because I'm open to the idea that maybe John had nothing to do with the ransom note now. I feel, I'm going to run out of time. I feel like he does have something, but I believe